There is always an equation or a formula that can be applied to any financial application to help you make the best decision possible for your needs. They can really provide a solid backing before shifting or spending large sums of money, which at times can be quite daunting. So learning how to apply them to your own situation is always going to be within your best interest. And today I'm going to be talking a bit about one specific topic that theoretically, when applied, could be relevant to any financial decision you're ever going to make throughout your lifetime. But first, welcome back to my channel. My name is Reese, and today we are looking at the cost benefit analysis. What are they? How do you apply them? And what are their pros and cons? Jumping straight in, what are they? They're basically used as a decision maker, which are purely based off of data. The concept behind a cost benefit analysis is to lay out all of your options in front of you and then compare them to each other to see which would be best to go with. They are a very logic and systematic based evaluation, and they are used heavily by businesses to basically drive them to the right decision that's going to benefit their company most. So why can't we use this method ourselves for our own personal decisions, especially ones that are going to carry forward with us for the decades to come, such as buying a house? It is a big decision and lots of thought needs to go into it. The short answer is that we can, and we definitely should. The cool thing about them as well is that we don't only have to take into consideration financial advantages and disadvantages when building out those options. There are all types of benefits that could swing your preference to a different option. Let's use the example of buying a property to live in. Location usually plays a big part in someone's decision to buy a home. If you have multiple locations in mind that meet your needs, performing a cost-benefit analysis could help you make that decision to figure out which one is more suitable to go with. Let's say one of the locations you're looking at is close to the beach. Let's say the other one is close to the city. Now you might be closer to the city for work purposes, which will mean your commute would be shorter versus the house at the beach. However, you do see yourself living in this property for a long time. But being closer to the beach might be a higher preference to you because walking along the Esplanade every day to stay fit and healthy is a higher priority than having a closer commute to work. These aren't financial factors which are feeding into the choice that you have to make. However, they are still important considerations that need to be accounted for when making a financial decision, such as big as purchasing a property. Your happiness, comfort, and convenience all play a part of this process, so they absolutely should be included in your cost benefit analysis. A few other factors like this that might often come into play would be things like personal satisfaction, impact to your life that isn't cost-based, opportunity costs, and finally, what if scenarios. As in, what are the most likely and most unlikely things to occur when making this decision? I bet that most people who bought a house at the peak of COVID at record low interest rates would definitely not have been thinking that interest rates could rise all the way up to 14% in their lifetime. That's the kind of thing that would make most people sweat. This is a what if scenario. What if interest rates went from 3% to 14%? That's like 4 to 5 times what I'd be currently paying at a 3% interest rate. That is going to be something that needs to be factored in for me personally to feel safe about making a decision like this. Whereas for a lot of others, I'm assuming that it wouldn't have been. A what if scenario like that might seem extreme, but it's something absolutely worth factoring into your cost benefit analysis, because what if it happens? Can you afford that mortgage? Are you going to lose your house? Questions well worth answering. By opportunity cost, I'll use the example of house prices where I live here in South Australia and compare that to Melbourne and Sydney, or New South Wales and Victoria, those states where the house prices have gone pretty crazy over the past decade, I would say. House prices there have risen significantly more than most other capital cities in the country. An opportunity cost in this example would be that Adelaide still has a lot of growing to do and is still somewhat an affordable place to live in terms of house prices and the cost of living, although that is on the up and up. I believe that in the coming decades, house prices here in South Australia will continue to grow compared to that of Sydney and Melbourne. I think that Adelaide will play catch up eventually, and we will see some pretty crazy booms. So this is another added benefit that I would be considering into my cost benefit analysis if I was looking for a home to potentially buy to live in for a very long time, because the future prospects of it would be pretty good. Another really good example would be improving or renovating an investment property, because let's say you paint it and you update all the appliances within. Theoretically, if it's nicer, neater, newer, you're going to attract more people who are interested in renting the property, which would allow you to potentially make more on whatever you were planning to charge in the original before putting that work in. And then even further down the track, you might be able to sell this property for even more money because you've made some quality of life improvements and some actual aesthetic improvements, which makes more people interested in purchasing the property. Finally, let's talk about the aggregated costs, which is essentially the total number, the total sum, all of the money required to implement a project or provide a service. This is one of the most important parts for your comparison. You need to have a good idea of what everything's going to cost. So when you put all of your options together, you can weigh them up against each other pretty fairly, and then it's going to be pretty indicative which is the right to go with. The way to do this is I would put a dollar value against every pro and con that is in your list for each option, even if it's something that doesn't normally have a dollar cost associated with it. Taking it back to my earlier example before of should I buy close to the beach or should I buy close to the city for work? In this scenario, I would put a dollar cost against walking on the beach. To me, it's valuable at $100 per week. Let's say $20 per walk, and I do it 5 days a week because I'm super passionate about it. I'm not in real life, but let's say for the sake of this example, over the course of a decade, that would be $52,000 of value added to my life. Okay, so now you actually know what goes into a cost benefit analysis. What is the actual process to follow? Let's run with the example of should I renovate an existing property or should I build brand new? From here, you will have two very different options to choose from. However, their inputs to those options will pull you in different directions for different reasons. And it won't only be the cost associated with each of those options. Let's use the example of renovating. If you renovate, will you actually have what you need as the end product, or will the spaces that already existed still be too small and not as functional as you planned them out to be? Or on the contrary, if you build new and you have to move in with your parents, are you going to be okay living with them for an extended period of time? Even if the contract, let's use a what if scenario here, even if your contract extends an extra year because of building delays. This is where you'll want to detail the timeline of the project, any constraints that you think are probably going to come up, any resources that are needed, and especially who's actually going to be involved in it. Identify all of the stakeholders and allow them to provide you with input. Ask them questions, ask them for feedback. This is probably one of the most important things about your cost benefit analysis, because they're going to find gaps. They're going to find issues, errors, reasons to change your mind potentially because of things that you may not have considered, which down the track will save you a lot of money. From here, we put a dollar value against all of the inputs for all of the options, pros and cons. What is that dollar value and how does that impact the cost of that option? For the most part, this step is pretty self-explanatory, but if you did need a little bit of help with your own cost benefit analysis, feel free to send me an email using the about page of my channel or drop a comment down at the bottom of this video. I'd be more than happy to have a discussion with you if that was something you were interested in doing. And if you've made it this far into the video, if you could quickly hit that like and subscribe button down below as well, it really helps the channel grow and I really appreciate the support. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to do that. All right, next step will be to identify all of the advantages and disadvantages associated with your current options. If you renovate, a pro would be that you can still live in your home while those renovations are taking place. You can also take as much time as you need and do it section by section, not having to disrupt your day-to-day life all that much. If you build brand new, like I said earlier, you might have to move in with the in-laws, and that could be a little bit sticky, especially if it's going to last for an extended period of time. Building is not a quick process, especially at the time of recording this video, where we're seeing worldwide shortages of materials, pushing people's builds out like up to a year at a time, and even more potentially depending on how complex and expensive it is. On the contrary, again, renovating could come with lots of blowouts. You might change the design multiple times and end up spending well over your intended budget. Whereas building new, let's say you're on a fixed contract, at least you know what you're upfront for and what you're getting out of that dollar value that you've set forward to that contract. And that again could put some people's minds at ease if they were in the space of, okay, I have a set budget, I have to stick to it, and this is what I can get for it. Sign away with a bit of confidence, knowing that you're at least going to get what you plan for and not an extra swag of debt that you didn't plan for. Overall, there are a lot of considerations to make. So make sure you spend some time really brainstorming and thinking about what might feed into each of the options that you're building out. The most important thing worth mentioning here is to be conservative with your estimates. This will reduce any shock or unexpected cost blowouts that might come as part of whatever it is you're doing. And that's pretty much it for the process flow. Other than that, the only real bad thing about a cost benefit analysis is that it's going to be somewhat time consuming. However, I think the benefits of doing one for especially really expensive or long and drawn out plans that are going to take years to implement into your life, things that can really affect your life in a way that you might not be able to foresee right now. It's kind of like a bit of planning in advance. It's really going to do wonders for your stress levels and your future potentially to help you make the right decision. The reality is that some decisions really do require more thought than just, okay, this is what we're doing. You really need to put some planning into place, and a cost benefit analysis is one of the best ways to find a way forward when there isn't a clear way forward. Some decisions really do require more analysis, like they need an in-depth analysis. You need to know the facts of what you're getting yourself into. And a cost benefit analysis, the topic of today's video, is exactly what you should be using when there isn't a clear way forward. I do this with most of the larger financial decisions that I have to make, and I have done so throughout my life for a long time, and it has served me really well. I may not be doing it on the same scale as a big four bank, for example. However, I definitely make sure that if there is a clearly winning option when weighing up the pros and cons, that I go with the option that is going to suit me and benefit me best over the long term. And there's a lot of power in doing that because it will work out for you the more planning you put into play. It will make you feel more confident in your decision making, and it will help you, it will guide you through that process. And overall, that's pretty much it. That's what a cost benefit analysis is. And that's how you kind of put one in place. I hope that I have somewhat explained the topic to you. I hope that you understand a bit more about it now. And I hope that you got something out of today's video. So if you did, please hit that like and subscribe button down below. And that's pretty much it. Have a good day. Have a good week. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.